Hello, bonjour, and welcome to this episode of the Erich Show. I don't know why I was holding my mug up there. It's almost as if I didn't know the show was about to begin. It wasn't like there was a big countdown timer on there, but that's the nature of security people. We spend our lives let's see, what's this? Greetings and salutations, Mr. McQuiggan. Nice to see you where you rightfully belong, on the other side of the screen.
Welcome to the Erich Show, featuring your hosts Javvad Malik and Eric Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
And speaking of people who also belong on the other side of the screen, you doing, Farmer Eric?
I see what you did there. It was incredibly clever, or something. Yeah.
You're welcome.
How are you today?
Oh, another day above ground.
I got to tell you, man, today snuck up on me. Like, I had no idea it was Friday, and then I got up and moved around. I was like, holy crap. Like, what the hell is going on here? And so here we are. And apparently you were the same way, because at 10 o'clock on the dot, you were nowhere to be found again.
Hey, I was busy. I was doing important stuff. And then I had to run to the office so quickly. But now, being at my age and my fitness level, I was so out of breath. I had to wait for a minute for the breathing to resume to normal level before I...
Your office is like 20 feet away, man. It's across your backyard.
Yeah. Have you seen how with short legs, you have to take lots of steps to get there?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyway, well, here we are. It is Friday. We made it for another show in a row, which I think is a major accomplishment.
It is a major accomplishment. And
it wouldn't have happened if I had been on the show. Just saying. Just saying.
Who invited you?
Oh, man. So James McQuiggan has come back to do something. I want to see. Are you guys going to fight it out, or how's this going to work, man?
Nah, we're
Who's going to be the J in the show?
The J in the show. It could be the J2 Eric show.
Oh God, no. I'm not redoing logos and stuff for that, man. That's a lot of work. There is no way.
Oh dear.
Well, yeah, here we are. What the hell? James is here. What do you say we go through the weekly stories, Javvad, and see if he has anything decent to add?
Unlikely, but we can hope. So let's see. The first story is from this side of the pond in the UK, and Cyberattack targeting UK councils causes online disruption. So, you've got Canterbury Council here. There's a thing like, it's down. 3 councils in the UK have taken some of their public-facing systems offline due to an ongoing cybersecurity issue. So, there's... You know what? There's nothing really new here. The fact is, councils are underfunded. Like Birmingham City Council a few months ago went bankrupt. A lot of others are severely in debt. They don't have money to spend on IT. They don't have money to spend on these systems. But
so, for clarification, though, Javvad, just help us out here, because you use weird words over there in Britain, and let's make sure, for those of us Americans who live in America and care only about America,
yeah,
what is a council? How does that kind of translate into what Americans would be used to?
Is it like small government, municipalities, small city governments?
It's a very good question, because I thought I had the answer, and then I started thinking of boroughs, and then I was like, there's London boroughs, and then there's councils. Are they interchangeable? All I know is that, so a council looks after a specific small area. So if you live in that area, you pay them a council tax, and then they're responsible for maintenance of that area. They will fund the schools, the roads, the street lights, your rubbish collection. Or so if you have any issues, you go to your local council. You in your local elections, you vote for your local councillor, who might be Labour or Conservative or Lib Dems or whatever, or UKIP if you're up north. Then the councillors then vote in Parliament to, I think, I'm kind of like making it up as I go along, but I'm pretty sure they then vote on legislation or stuff that goes. Anyway, luckily my AI is over here. Local councils, which is the most common type of local authority, are made up of councillors who are elected by the public in local elections. I was right. They work with local people and partners such as local businesses and other organizations to agree and deliver on local priorities. So that's how a council works. So if you're like, say, like you have accessibility needs, the council will offer to provide you with something like off-street parking or a ramp to get into your house. They can build that for you.
Okay.
So services like that, social services all fall under your local council, health services, all that.
So these are the folks, though, that Jeremy Clarkson's fighting with, right? Over in the Cotswolds over there. And
yeah, so the local council will also, you have to apply for planning permission if you want to make changes to your house.
So they're a local government, kind of like a city government, maybe a
municipality,
little bit smaller or something like that.
Probably like that, yes.
Okay. Now, I got a question for you. You got 3 of them hit here that's listed. Yep. Now, is this something you had heard about before seeing this on the show? Like, is it something that's really a big deal that 3 of them are hit by whatever, probably ransomware?
So it's been in the news, and there's been councils that have been hit over the last few years. I think a couple of years ago there was Haringey Council, possibly. I think that was affected, or that's in London. And the impact of these is huge to local residents. So sometimes people can't pay for certain services.
Right.
Other times they cannot get paid. So if they're living in social housing, say like, people that are vulnerable and they're put up by the council in the state, they don't get their benefit money, or they couldn't make payments to them. So there's a whole bunch of things that are very closely tied to every day-to-day people's livelihood or standard of living, and all of those services are linked to your local council. So when the council goes down, everyone that lives in that area is pretty much affected at some level or another.
Gotcha. We've seen the same thing. Like when Atlanta was taken down and stuff, people couldn't pay their water bills. They couldn't get marriage licenses because they were locally done. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see this. And we all know, we've talked about this before, all 3 of us, about how municipalities and stuff are kind of behind the gun there. There's maybe one person or a fraction of a person that's sort of doing cyber somewhere through like a managed service provider or something. Yeah. They have about a $4 budget, right? And they're just being hammered all the time. James, are you familiar with this type of thing, right?
Oh yeah, no, like you said, Eric, we've all talked about it at length, and it's a tricky situation because they're already operating on limited budgets with each of those different councils. And you would almost hope or expect that your states or your counties or your boroughs would have more funding, that they could set up an MSP to be able to support all of them. Maybe they do, but I haven't seen enough of that in the government. But, get more support either centrally, federally, to be able to do that, because they're not able to make that distinguished viewpoint that, cybersecurity is important. You got to be able to protect those assets. You can't just kind of hope and pray you don't get hacked. Hope and pray that it's security by obscurity, that, we're a small little, network. Yeah. We're not going to get hit. But when they're dealing with so much financial information and personal information, and both of our governments, the US and the UK, Canada, and other countries, they've put out all these standards and requirements. Great. What are you going to do to be able to support all the smaller ones that have to support your still constituents in those areas? So I'm being a bit cynical on this, but kind of need a little more support from the bigger governments in the different countries.
So Javvad, I don't know about on your side, but I am impressed that James said all of that without his lips moving once.
I know.
Oh, wow.
That was impressive. His video is frozen, which is a great improvement.
That's unfortunate.
Oh no, not
not really. We're okay now.
Okay, so the mother of all breaches,
the MOAB. the mother of all breaches, right?
It reveals 26 billion records. What we know so far. Go on, Eric.
Yeah, this is a pretty big one. I mean, seriously, 12 terabytes of information on this thing that's out there. It just kind of dwarfs what we've seen in the past. Clearly, this is a compilation of a bunch of breaches and stuff, and some of it's going to be repeated and whatnot. But apparently, there's a lot of new data in this thing, and I love the fact that we have to acronym everything like the MOAB. Right? This just sounds so good. And I love how they threw this in here. It's most likely the largest compilation of multiple breaches, also known as a COMB, C-O-M-B, compilation of multiple breaches. Why do we have to acronym everything? For the love of all that's good in this world, right? I mean, seriously. But this is actually pretty huge if you look at the numbers that we see in here. It's almost staggering, I think.
Yeah. So Tencent and Weibo are Chinese platforms, as far as I know. They're like their equivalent of Facebook or Twitter or something like that, and what have you. Then the other ones, you know, they're a bit more
MySpace.
MySpace.
Whoa!
Wow. Oh no! Someone's going to find my page that automatically plays jingles when you browse to it.
Yeah, for those of you too young to remember MySpace and our good friend Tom. MySpace was kind of like Facebook, only you'd go to the page and get automatic sounds going on. There were animated GIFs were all the thing, right? With all the twinkles and sparkly crap and stuff on the side. I kind of got to wonder how old this data is if there's a bunch of records from MySpace in there. But MySpace, I think, is still around. I'm almost afraid
it's still around.
See if,
But
yeah.
if it is a comb, then people might still be using the same passwords.
Imagine that.
I hope. Yeah. But now the kicker is with these 26. This is the 23 billion one. 23 billion records. Yeah. Now you can start using AI and start looking at patterns and looking at the different passwords and creating even bigger rainbow tables to do a variety of attacks. That's in the hope that these people are still using some of those old passwords. But I'm sure this will just be more ammo for the attackers out there for their credential stuffing and password spraying.
Yeah. And these are always interesting. Adult friend finder, right?
Oh,
like
geez.
when we see stuff like that popping up on here, you remember the one Ashley Madison years ago and how that impacted individuals who all of a sudden their significant others are like, hey, wait a minute, or their employers are like, what the hell? I mean, that information went out there and got some people in trouble. And I think some people actually took their own lives over it.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, what surprised me was the number of government military email addresses in there.
Yeah.
So this is, as they say, a big one. So there's the mug. I gave you that one, James. Softball lobbed that one to you. All right. So good catch on that. Yeah, this was an interesting story. We're used to the NSA just taking what they want, but apparently without warrants, they're also just going out and buying our browsing information from those creepy marketers that track everything we do all the damn time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they just don't want to steal everything. They got to look honest at some point. I don't know.
Well, you know what? It kind of tells me how good these marketers are at stealing information that the NSA is going to them to
like, here's some money.
What your patterns and stuff like that is. It really is a problem. At work, I used to tell our marketing lead, I was like, y'all are just creepy. And it's not just like the place, it's in general. Marketers use these, these 0-byte pixels or whatever, and they can see if you opened it or, the heat maps all over the freaking pages. Like there is all this analytics that they pick up on you, not to mention cookies and all that. We talked about a couple weeks ago, we talked about Google killing the third-party cookies and stuff through the Chrome browser, but I can almost guarantee there's going to be some sort of a backup to that. So what do you think of this, looking in from the outside, Javvad, that the NSA is actually buying data on people as well?
I didn't think this was news. I thought this was like common practice that, you know, government agencies would buy, because a lot of these apps, so like you get free apps on your phone, and how do they make money? By collecting your data, bundling it all up and selling it. They might anonymize some of it, but you know, the metadata itself is very, very powerful. A couple of years ago, there was an app called Muslim Pro, and I think we spoke about it on the show. It's an app for Muslims. It tells you when the prayer times are, where your local mosques are, and stuff like that. And it was found that the US military was buying data from them. And it was a big hoo-ha that the app manufacturers came out saying, no, we don't sell it to the military, but you know, whatever. And from that, people were like, well, if you want to know who to put on your watch list, just see who's downloaded the app, and it becomes a lot easier. Or you can use geolocation to see on a Friday afternoon, where do they all congregate? Okay, send the drone over there. So there's a lot of you know, there's a lot that can of this that happens. I think it's just there. It gets stolen, it gets borrowed. On the other side, when we saw things like Strava, when their data was leaked, but you know, you could buy that data just as well, and then you saw military personnel and their facilities and where they're going, running around the block.
Yeah.
Suddenly it goes into a black hole on Google Maps. There's nothing there except there's a bunch of people wake up at 6 a.m. and go running around for a while.
Yep. And in all fairness, though, some of that stuff, you know, I see some people on X/Twitter/ whatever the hell it's called this week. And they post up like, hey, I did my daily run today, and show a screenshot of where they ran. And you're like, oh, so OSINT where you live sort of thing there. I mean, people are willing to give up that information quite a bit, but it is kind of interesting to see that the NSA is not only just grabbing it all, but they're also buying it as well from creepy marketers. I mean, yeah, you know, when I am old enough to retire, which is about 20 minutes from now, I'm going to throw my smartphone out the window. I'm going to get an old like Nokia. I'm going to go find a Nokia bar phone that still kind of works. And,
if it can still get on the network.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll figure something out. Let me tell you.
There was an article in the Wall Street Journal last week. Somebody reverted back to an old flip phone, had to go to the store to convince the person they didn't want a smartphone. They wanted the flip phone. And now they're doing the texting using just, you know, the 12-letter keys, right? So, yeah, they wanted to see if they could go 30 days without technology. It was rather interesting.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber, Matt Divello.
Yeah.
He does those sorts of challenges, like, could I go like a month without my smartphone? Could I go it with only using a smartwatch? Could I do it with this and that? And his videos are really insightful and interesting. And I always watch it and get like, yes, I'm going to go minimalist. I'm going to go like, you know, do this and that. And no. I don't know. See,
you go 5 minutes and it's like, oh, where's my phone?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Oh, go ahead, Javvad.
I think with you, Eric, you're going to get the flip phone. You're going to go off into your property, become a farmer, and then like one day, like, you know, a black Jeep's going to pull up with blacked out windows and everything, and I'm going to come out like, one more job, man, Eric. We need you back on the Jerick show. James is just useless. Just come back.
You know, I've been thinking about this a little bit, believe it or not. It's kind of gone through my mind as I see more of these memes and stuff on the old stuff, right? But I started thinking about, like, can you imagine? Do you remember back when they were just the flip phones or the bar phones, right? How the batteries would last like a week, right? And if we took today's battery technology and stuffed it in one of those phones, it'd be like 2 years between charging, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you play the snake game on those things. Can you imagine? Like, it would be amazing.
Awesome.
It would.
Yeah.
So I do have one more story, a surprise story that you hadn't put in the show notes, but I thought this was really interesting. So this has been, so if you're a brown person, what are some things you don't do at an airport?
Say I've got a BOMB.
Yes.
A bill of material? Was that
bill of materials? Again, you know, yeah.
So there's this kid who was 18. A couple of years ago, he was flying to Menorca from London Gatwick, and he texted his friends on Snapchat in a private group chat in there saying, I'm going to blow up a bomb. I'm a member of the Taliban.
Yeah.
Now, didn't he do this on the airport Wi-Fi, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was there, and
This had F-18 flying alongside the plane too.
Yeah,
right?
there were two fighter jets scrambled by Spain, and they took him down and everything and what have you. He could face
Charges.
Well, I think he's
Jail
been
time.
acquitted of it, but
Fines.
fines, yeah, 22,000, or 22,500 euros fine,
Plus.
and 95,000 euros for the cost of
The planes.
the planes, that were scrambled. And what's interesting here is that no one
It's
really
easy yet.
knows how because Snapchat is meant to be a bit like WhatsApp, all these other messaging things where it's end-to-end encrypted. So how did, are they man in the middling it from the Wi-Fi on there? Is Snapchat actually monitoring for certain keywords if you're in a particular location and then flagging that to authorities? Did one of his friends think it would be funny to flag this message and send it there? The theory,
I thought it was one of his friends that did something that caught the eye.
these are theories that are out there.
Okay.
And no, I don't think there's anything, because I think like if they say that we man in the middle it all, it tips the hand to everyone that we've got these capabilities, and they're gonna move to flip Nokia phones, which you can't man in the middle.
These kinds of things do happen, and sometimes it's innocuous, right? Like I remember a story a couple of years ago where a guy was in a Home Depot, like the home improvement store, right? And he told his buddies, he's like, man, I'm gonna go blow up the bathroom. And somebody heard that and they brought in the cops and all. He's like, no, man, I meant like burrito style. Like I had some bad breakfast, right? But then you have some real things. And I think I've told this story before, but when I was in high school, a bunch of our teachers, I was in Arizona and they went down to Mexico, and we used to do that all the time, right? You go down to Nogales and hang out, get some cheap drinks and stuff like that. But as they were coming back across, one of the teachers, she was very German. She had a very strong German accent. Her name was Dr. Miller. And one of the teachers jokingly said, oh yeah, she's a Nazi that's been in hiding and at the Mexico border. She ended up getting locked up in a Mexican prison for like a weekend,
Oh, wow.
You just don't mess around with certain things in certain areas, right? They had to prove that she wasn't like an ex-Nazi in hiding and all this stuff. And I'm sure the other teacher felt really bad about it, and probably even worse when she became the principal of the school and he worked for her. But there's just certain things that we shouldn't be saying or doing. And I get concerned about these kids and these TikTok challenges and crap like that. And if you look out there, like on Facebook and stuff, there's all of these things that they're doing to generate stupidity, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff is going to go very, very wrong for somebody before long, like in this case here on the plane, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. No, it's I first thought, like, how could you be so stupid? I thought everyone after 9/11, like 2001, everyone knows. But then I saw he wasn't born at that time. He was born after 2001, so he's got no frame of reference. It's a scary prospect. It's a scary thought.
It's a tough lesson to learn too, but I just pulled up the article just to go back and refresh, because I read this over the weekend and when I first saw it, and I was like, man, tough lesson to learn. But yeah, I mean, if British security services intercepted the message between an encrypted end to end, that certainly does open up a can of worms. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
So nobody likes a man in the middle.
Nobody.
And that's why we get rid of him. So with that, we can end the show.
All right.
So
it's weird that I'm here at the end of the the show.
Well, let's make it not weird then. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Stay secure, my